Welcome back to Big Sky Buckets. I'm Big Sky, and today we're going to continue our offseason 24 power rankings going into the 2025 NBA season. We're going to pick it up with a brand new tier. This one is good teams that are going to be genuine wild cards. It's kind of like there are going to be other tiers that have the wild card moniker to them, but these are the ones that I also had a pretty hard time figuring out where they would fluctuate. So let's jump into it. Number 14 here, 7th in the East, the Indiana Pacers. My biggest thing here is my hot take is they're just going to regress a little bit. We've seen from teams that are historic offenses with like zero defense in the past couple of years end up the following year after making no real acquisitions to change their team, take a step back and regress a little bit. We saw it from the Kings from the 23 season to the 24 season. They were that historic offense in 23, third in the West, and then they basically kept the same guys and regressed a lot, finding their way to like 9th seed in the West. Here, I think one of the things that helps, they're not going to go from 6th to 9th. That's not what's going to happen here. One, obviously being in the East. Two, unlike the Kings that year, they at least acquired Pascal Siakam at the trade deadline, and that obviously helps. However, the main thing that I have against the Pacers is even though their offense will win them games and will win them a lot of regular season games, I think they need to get better at defense. When you're looking at 7 through 2 in the East, I think these teams are interchangeable between like a handful of games. And I think a lot of those teams that I have higher than them should be straight up better than the Pacers at defense. Unlike the Magic, when teams like the Pacers and the Magic, these were the two teams that kind of popped out onto the scene in the East. One of the things that helped and will continue to help the Magic is that once you go from the hunter to the hunted, like the Pacers will be, like the Magic will be, one of the things that helps the most is defense. There's not as much variation within defense than there is against this high octane offense that the Pacers have. So teams will teams can scheme for offense, but it's a little bit harder for defense, in my opinion. Even though offense is extremely important in the NBA, the Magic's style of defense being the second best in the NBA last year, or was it third best, is really important, especially because they did get like at least 1 to 2 new acquisitions, and the Pacers didn't really change too much defensively. And one of the biggest things is I really thought Pascal Siakam would come in here and really help lift the floor of this team defensively, and that's not exactly what happened. So there's going to be a lot of guys here that I think need to take that step in order for them to take a step forward instead of a slight regression, because teams will be able to scheme a little bit better. At least the good teams in the NBA will scheme for the Pacers. I still think this team could win like 47, 48 games, and I don't think that's a big step back. They were the 6th seed last year. Now they're the 7th seed. A couple teams around them got better, and yeah, I think part of it is they could have been the 7th seed last year had Joel Embiid not gotten injured for more than half of the year, right? Or like half of the year. So that's one thing to say is like, this isn't hate for the Pacers. This is just my hot take is like, I don't see them closer to the 4th seed than I do closer to the 7th seed. I hope their starting lineup is Tyrese Haliburton at the 1, Andrew Nembhard at the 2, Aaron Nesmith at the 3, Pascal Siakam at the power forward, and Miles Turner at the 5. Quick little thing, and then we'll move on. Got to figure out which Tyrese Haliburton you're getting. Post-injury Tyrese Haliburton, that's more of like 2010, still efficient but not as crazy efficient, or the guy who's going closer to like 30 and 11 on insane efficiency those first couple of months of the season. Figuring that out this year will be really helpful to know how to continue roster building, or if one of those was more of a fluky kind of player than anything else. And then I'll either straight up be wrong about the Pacers because Tyrese Haliburton is one of the best guards in the NBA, bar none, or he's not as good as that. So you have to build a little bit more defense around this guy who's still one of the best playmakers in the NBA. And then Miles Turner needs to get better at rim protection again. He was really good up until this last season, and then team just forgot for the most part how to play defense until certain games If they could be a little bit more consistent on defense, that's my main thing. This team would be way better. Number 13, 7th in the West, the Phoenix Suns. Big Mike Budenholzer believer. I don't know the difference too much between him and Frank Vogel, but I do know this. Mike Budenholzer knows how to get wins in the regular season. He knows how to get guys to at least buy in for one season. Like, if these guys can't buy in for even this singular season, then yeah, next time we do this in the following year, I will not buy any Suns propaganda. But I will this year. They did not fix their center depth, but they did fix one of their big issues. Fourth quarter scoring and point differential. They were one of all playoff teams, they're one of the only teams that in the fourth quarter of most of these games last year would be almost looked at as one of the worst teams in the league. They just forgot how to score. They forgot how to function. And a lot of that is just Devin Booker wearing down and also not being a traditional point guard. He was trying to learn how to be point guard last year, and some of it was fun, and then you get to the fourth quarter, and it's not as fun. Now you have Tyus Jones. He should absolutely help. One of the other things you got going for this team is what you saw from Devin Booker in the Olympics. Someone who can adapt to a role. He still can be the elite shot maker that he is. That's not going to change, but there's going to be games where you need him to adapt to a role to win games that Kevin Durant is probably not going to be able to do as much. Bradley Beal, probably not as much, and obviously not Yusuf Nurkic. And that in itself will help them be a little bit better under a new head coach in Mike Budenholzer. Biggest issue, same with the Pelicans, the center depth, same with the Pelicans, same with the Pacers. The center depth here is terrible. And unlike the Pacers, unlike the Pelicans, I don't know how they fix it. They realistically don't fix this. They don't have the assets to, which is why I put them here. I think if they had assets to make a trade, I might, even though I don't want to project that in these standings, there'd be a little bit more leniency about, maybe they could be 6th in the West. But this is who they are. It's not going to change. But the big change of Tyus Jones and Mike Budenholzer here, I think 48, 49 wins, maybe even 50. I think that's on the table in as stacked of a West as we have. Starting lineup, in my opinion, Tyus Jones at the point guard, Devin Booker at the shooting guard. I really hope at one point they can put someone else in as the small forward, and then you have Bradley Beal come off the bench as the 6th man. But for now, Bradley Beal is the small forward. That's one of the other bigger issues with this team. But I think eventually we'll swap one of the numerous wings on this team into the small forward position to be more of the traditional 3-and-D guy, do the dirty work kind of player. But Kevin Durant at the power forward and Yusuf Nurkic at the center. Yeah, I don't think they got worse. That's the thing. So I think they slot in here. Like, 7th seed is technically worse than what it was last year, but the number could still be just as many wins, if not just like 1 or 2 more. So that's my opinion on the Suns. Going into the 12, final wild card here. Really, the wild card. One of the 2 wild cards of the West. The Memphis Grizzlies, last year, one of the worst teams in the league by far, because it was just truly a cursed, unfortunate season for the Grizzlies. John Morant plays only 9 games, basically. Desmond Bane gets injured for a lot of the year. Jaren Jackson Jr. eventually gets injured. Steven Adams didn't even play a single game because he got season-ending surgery before the season even started. Marcus Smart, who they traded for, eventually got injured. It was just brutal. But what you walk away from that is, first of all, before that season, a couple of years prior, Taylor Jenkins, when they play defense, can get these boys wins. Just like with Mike Budenholzer, they can get wins. Ja at the point guard, Desmond Bane at the shooting guard. I guess right now Vince Williams, but later G.G. Jackson at the small forward, Jaren Jackson Jr. at the power forward, and hopefully Zach Edey at the center. This team should be able to do what they've done. The reason they're not closer to like 4 and they're closer to 6 here in the West. It's going to take a little time integrating G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams with the core pieces of this team, along with like Zach Edey. Integrating them into the offense and just playing games in general might take some time, but grit and grind defense turning into transition offense is how this team has won 50 games multiple times in their tenure. I just believe that they can just be good. John Morant is fantastic. And if he can play, that's one of the big ifs of this team, they can go higher. And the integrating 2 new starters, along with John Morant specifically, his injury history, is why I have him at 6. I do believe in their defensive floor much more than most of the other teams I've talked about in the West, other than like the Lakers. But again, Lakers is all based on Anthony Davis's health, but they can still win games without Ja. They can't go as many games. Like if the Lakers lost Anthony Davis, you're going to start losing games very quickly. There's not as much area to survive. It's like what we talked about with the Hawks. If Trae Young goes down, it's a lot harder to survive. Like it's really hard, if impossible, to survive without him. But with the Grizzlies, they at least have Marcus Smart, who's kind of the insurance policy, and they can survive because the main thing is not their offense, it's their defense. And their defense is going to thrive with Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, who's actually an underrated defender. So I have them here at 12th, 6th in the West. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Subscribe, like, comment. I appreciate all the support. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We got to keep this thing going. NBA season starts in the week. Peace.